Yo, 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 what up, though? This is your boy, Crispy Daniels, and you are now on Show and Talk. So, how many of y'all seen these cheesy movies from the 80s? Martial arts movies, preferably. I know I have, and I'm a big fan of them. I can't even lie to y'all. Some of them are a guilty pleasure. Some of them, I can watch in the open. You know what I'm saying? One film in particular, which is Bloodsport, made by Canon Films. Great classic movie, even though, in my opinion, the movie, is somewhat made up. It's supposed to be based on a dude named Frank Dukes, but I'm not too sure about his reputation, but movie was pretty good though. I'll say that. And another film that stands out to me is the American Ninja film. The first one from 1985. So this movie right here, when I first saw it, years ago, I kind of thought it was boring a little bit because I was young, like real young when I first saw it. And it was based, what I'm saying? It was basically a military film. But, over time, I started to appreciate it. Because my stepdad, he was, into action films too. And when certain scenes popped up, he would call us from the room just to watch him. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, like all the movies that he was into back then, I'm into now. So the American Ninja films, they got 5 of them, which to me the 5th one doesn't count. It was supposed to be a movie called, I think, Little Ninja Man or American Dragons, but then they just made it into an American Ninja movie, in my opinion, for a cash grab. But anyway, the first movie we're going to talk about basically stars Michael Dudikoff as Joe Armstrong, right? So when he did this movie, he was actually, he had no experience in martial arts at all. I think he was a model or something like that. So he had to get training on set and everything before he was able to, play the character and all that. So, and I think he did pretty well. Like his stunts in the movie is very convincing. Other than the part where it shows him, running over, riding over that ramp on a motorcycle, on Jackson's motorcycle, you can clearly tell that's a stunt double. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, a lot of his stunts were impressive. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta say one thing though. The movie is rated R, but the violence level in it, there's barely any blood. Let's see. There's no like sex, no nudity, none of that. You know what I'm saying? It's really barely any like F bombs in it either. I think you might hear it maybe once. But the movie should have been cut down to a PG-13 in my opinion. But yeah, this movie takes place, in the military, the army, you know what I mean? So Joe was like this quiet, introverted dude, right? So everybody's looking at him like, at first they look at him like he's weird, but then after the incident that went down, when they got stopped by these dudes for their cargo and whatnot, right? That's when Joe took action. One of them slapped Patricia or whatever. And then, that's the colonel's daughter or whatever, right? So basically what happens is the colonel is I guess he has, one of his men taking his daughter home or whatever, like taking her to the house. But like everybody's real careful with her because, again, that's the colonel's daughter. So, you know what I'm saying? After she gets, hit or whatever, Joe springs into action, which triggers a war between the foreign dudes and the military, the soldiers or whatever. So and then the soldiers are watching them, like they really watching these dudes, right? So out of nowhere, you see like this ninja. He goes by, I think they call him the Black Star Ninja. So he shows up, and then his forces show up, right? His men, and they're ninja. So basically what he does, he's sitting there watching these dudes get wiped out, and then he sends his men into the battle or whatever. And these ninja are really, really, really taking these soldiers out. Like so they got guns and everything, and the ninja are like somehow they're not getting hit. A few of them got hit, but for the most part they won. Some of them shot some of the dudes with arrows. One dude got hit with a spear. You know what I'm saying? But if you look at the movie, like I said, it's really not all that violent because there's one scene where a dude gets his throat slit, but they cut it real quick, so you don't really see it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so the ninja, they won. And then Joe, he got away with the girl Patricia. So what he does, he hides out in the woods being chased by, what ninja are left over. So, as they're chasing him, Joe and Patricia finds this hiding spot. So they're out there in the woods for a while, and then everybody who's left in that unit goes back to the base or whatever, right? And then it's been told to, the colonel that basically Joe started the whole thing. That's why half his men got wiped out and everything. This is Sergeant Renato. Now, this dude, he's a straight asshole in this movie. So, you'll know who I'm talking about. He looks like a Mario brother. But, he didn't like Joe from the start anyway. So, when Joe finally shows back up at the base or whatever, after dropping Patricia off at a house, because they was riding on a fruit truck or something like that, you know what I'm saying? He shows back up on the base and he's getting reprimanded by the colonel. You know what I'm saying? And my thing about that was, I ain't gonna say Joe triggered the whole thing, but bro, your daughter got slapped and Joe just jumped in to say, because she's about to get slapped again. So Joe jumps in to save her, you know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to figure out why you reprimanding this dude for saving your daughter, because she would have been the goner, because man can't talk. There was one scene in the movie where she jumps up in the car and tries to take off, but the wheel gets shot out, so she loses control of the car. And one of the dudes that ambushed the soldiers or whatever started shooting up the car, and she would have got hit. So basically, Joe saved her life, and apparently he never told them that. So after being reprimanded by the colonel, he heads back to his basically to his bunk or whatever. So he's sitting down with the other men or whatever, right? Everybody's looking at him. See, at first they thought he was weird, but then it went from that to them being pissed off at him because they lost, half their unit. So they get up, they leave him to himself because they don't want no parts of this dude. And then there's a scene where, he's working on his truck or whatever, right? Just sitting there minding his own business. And this is where my boy Jackson comes in, Curtis Jackson, you know what I'm saying? So everybody points out Joe to him. So he walks up to Joe, he tries to get his attention. And at first, Joe is just sitting there, ignoring him or whatever, just minding his business. And then Jackson, he starts to antagonize him or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So Joe gets down, and then next thing you know, it's a fight. And I hate to say it, man, but Jackson, Joe made him look like a fool in that fight. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. Steve James in real life back then was a genuine martial artist. You know what I'm saying? He was legit. But they just made him seem weaker than Joe in this movie. You know what I'm saying? So basically, what happens is there's a scene where Joe made him look like a fool by putting a bucket on his head. Then he kneels on his knees or whatever. He's pointing at his head, basically telling Jackson to go ahead and hit him in the head with the stick that he had in his hand. So right there when Jackson was about to do it, Joe reverses it, knocks him on his ass again, and then the stick is right there above his head. And there's one thing about this movie where I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but I don't know if it's a dub. I don't know if it's a dub or the line. I don't know how it seems kind of off when Jackson's like, all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, if that part of the movie is just like, I don't know. It just sounds off. I know it's something small and I'm nitpicking, but it just sounded kind of off a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, after that, they become friends or whatever because Jackson sees that Joe is legit. You know what I'm saying? So later on, Jackson is trying to talk to Joe, get his attention or whatever, trying to ask him like, yo, where'd you learn, your moves from or whatever, whatever. And at first Joe was kind of, apprehensive. He don't want to tell him anything, but eventually he breaks down and tells him that, he has amnesia when he was a kid. Something happened, but he basically woke up not remembering anything. So Jackson is like, where'd you learn your martial arts or whatever? Then that's when he tells him, from the streets. And then Jackson is like, yo, I'm from the streets. And the shit that basically that can't come from the streets. You know what I'm saying? So Joe just said he just know. So Jackson basically wants to quit the military to, fighting competitions and all that, making easy money. But Joe's like, I don't like crowds, blah, 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 blah. So Larry Poindexter is the name of the actor that, I keep forgetting his name in the movie. But he's kind of like the comedy relief. But he basically has this note, right? He needs Joe to deliver it to this mystery girl or whatever. And Joe basically says, okay, I'll do it. Because at first he asks Jackson, but Jackson had something to do on base, so he had Joe do it. And then, Joe, he takes Jackson's motorcycle. And this is the part right here where you can clearly see it's a stunt double on the bike. When Joe rides up and he hits the ramp and he jumps out of the base. So he jumps over the fence or whatever, and like they'll have like this far out shot where he's in the air on the bike. And you can clearly tell it's a stunt double. You know what I'm saying? So he makes it to the restaurant where this mystery girl is waiting. And it turns out it's Patricia. And that letter was for him. So, they wind up having dinner that night or whatever, right? And as they're sitting there eating and talking or whatever, Joe looks over and he sees Sergeant Renato. And he's talking to this dude named Ortega. And that dude is he's like a weapons distributor or whatever. So basically what happens is all the cargo that they have, it's like weapons and all of that. And it's being distributed to him. Basically, him and the colonel and the sergeant, they're all in it together. They're basically giving the weapons to him. He's selling them to different dealers and all that. And then they're basically all making money. So that's basically what's happening here. I don't know how many times I said basically, but that's what's happening in a nutshell. So after that, the next day or whatever, Joe was like, in the bunk with his men or whatever, right? With some of his unit, and he sleep. And then that's when Sergeant Renato walks in. Everybody stands up, you know how they do. You know what I'm saying? Stand up straight and everything. And Joe is still asleep. So one of his boys, taps him or whatever. He wakes up and he stands up really quickly, you know what I'm saying? Like in line. So Renato already knew what happened. You know what I mean? So he's basically setting Joe up at this point. And I'm not giving any spoilers away. This movie came out in 1985. If you haven't seen it by now, then hey, I don't know what to tell you. You might watch it anyway, just based on listening to my fucking voice. But anyway, he tells Joe to report to the motor pool to drop off a load or whatever. So when he gets there, there's no one around. And anybody who's seen this movie clearly knows it's a setup because the music starts playing and everything. It's one of those movies. Every time the music plays, something about to go down. So these ninja appear in the warehouse or whatever. And then Joe is basically wiping their asses out. And it's like one scene where I don't know if it was like a bag of rice or not rice, but it was a bag of like dirt or whatever, right? And you didn't see the ninja, but Joe stabs the sword into the bag, and then the ninja, you know what I'm saying, just falls down, you know what I'm saying? So he's wiping out all these ninja by himself. He has one hell of a third eye because it's like, yo, he's, I don't think, like, other than the Black Star Ninja, like the main enemy, I don't think no other ninja touched him in this film. You know what I mean? Like he was just wiping everybody out by himself, really, as far as the ninja is concerned. So after all of that, he knew he was set up, but he didn't know Ronaldo did it. You know what I'm saying? But he knew something was going on. So I'm gonna fast forward to near the end because what happens is Joe, he escapes or whatever, right? So when he comes back, he gets locked up by the military police or whatever because he was wanted. You know, Ronaldo set that shit up nicely. Basically, he probably knew that Joe was going to get out, but you know what I'm saying? They're trying to get rid of this dude by any means. So they put him in, they put him in jail or whatever, and he's there, and then they was going to send the Black Star Ninja in to finish him off. You know what I'm saying? Because all the lights are shut out in the cells or whatever in the facility. So, you know what I'm saying? He wakes up and he knows some shit is about to go down. And then the Black Star Ninja enters his cell or whatever, but he doesn't see him. So they start fighting and all that. And then the shit that the Black Star Ninja pull out, like it's moves that he never uses again. You know what I'm saying? Like he had like this laser and shit. You know what I'm saying? What else did he? I think he shot fire or some shit. But he really didn't use the moves like that. You know what I'm saying? Or the weapons like that, which mystified me because I'm like, yo, if you got that kind of artillery, why not use it on you know what I'm saying, to try to get rid of your opponent? But Joe was good. So there's a scene where Ortega comes to the Colonel's house. Now, I told y'all that the Colonel and Ortega was, in on this whole weapon situation where the weapons are being distributed to Ortega so he can sell them off to these other dealers. So they all make, they're all making money. But what happens is the Colonel, after the shit went down with Joe and everything at the warehouse and all that, he's basically telling Ortega, look, we can't keep doing this. We're going to be exposed eventually. And Ortega, he's the only one, he's not listening. He's the only one who's still trying to do it. You know what I'm saying? Who's still trying to distribute these weapons or whatever. But the Colonel, he's just like, nah, you know what I'm saying? We're not doing it. So after this, they show, Patricia in her room doing what she does, and the Black Star Ninja shows up in the window because for some reason Ortega knew that things were going to go down the way it did, which I didn't understand that part because I'm like, why would you kidnap this man's daughter, or you was prepared to kidnap this man's daughter for what? Like, you didn't know what the Colonel was going to say or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? So they kidnap Patricia, and what happens is Joe, because this is like, all this takes place like after Joe escapes the facility because of the Black Star Ninja or whatever. So basically Joe is telling Jackson to meet him in a designated location in a half an hour or whatever. So like Patricia was with Jackson when they met up, and Patricia is basically telling, tries to convince Joe that she can help him or whatever. That's her dad. He's the Colonel and shit. So they all show up, back at the Colonel's house or whatever. And Patricia convinces the Colonel to, look into what's going on, because at that point, Joe knew that Sergeant Renato was in on it with Ortega. He just didn't know that the Colonel was in on it. So when the military police showed up at the house or whatever, they thought they was about to get help, but no, it was a setup. Like they was coming there to get Joe. So Joe escapes. And this is before Patricia got kidnapped. So by the way, you know what I'm saying? So Joe, gets into a Jeep or whatever. He pulls out, and you know what I'm saying, he's riding down the street or whatever, and they're chasing him, Sergeant Renato and other military police. And for some reason, this shit is like the slowest chase I ever seen, man. And then Renato, he gets frustrated, kicks the dude out the Jeep or whatever, right? He gets, he gets into the driver's seat, trying to push Joe off the road, and Joe successfully pushes him off the road. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know how the shit blew up, but like it just tapped the tree or whatever, and the whole shit just blew up. But that motherfucker's dead now. So anyway, moving on. So Joe comes across his master, which is played by John Fujioka. I swear this dude played a lot of people's sensei back in the day. You know what I'm saying? He was a great actor too. But so his master is basically explaining to Joe on who he is and how he knows him and everything. And he's telling Joe, you was just a baby when I found you. And when Joe was like 9 to 10 years old, that's when the explosion happened and they got separated because he was still hiding out in the woods from, what was it, World War II? And he thought the war was still going on, but that's why he was out in the woods and he found Joe. So that's how Joe lost his memory. But, he's sitting there with his master and everything. And then his master's basically giving him the rest of his lessons and all of that. So the next day, Joe confronts Ortega again, along with the Black Star Ninja. And this time, his master is helping him out because his master was working for Ortega, but not voluntarily. He was like, the gardener or whatever. They found him in the woods. So they're fighting off these ninja or whatever, right? And his master winds up getting killed, saving Joe's life. He sacrifices himself. Now, this movie is almost grounded in the reality, but I don't think there's no way that anybody can, disappear and teleport in front of someone. If you can, teach me. You know what I'm saying? I'm messing with you. But yeah, Joe's master sacrifices himself because he teleports in front of him, taking I think it was a shuriken, a throwing star, or it might have been a dart from a blowgun. I forgot, man. But, he takes the shot and he's sitting there. He doesn't say anything to Joe. He just looks at him and then he dies. So now this time Joe is confronting the Black Star Ninja because they got Patricia. So at the beginning of the movie, the Black Star Ninja shoots these arrows at Joe, trying to hit him and Patricia. But Joe takes the shovel and blocks all 3 arrows, which I thought it was dope. And then this time, Joe is shooting, arrows at the Black Star Ninja, trying to hit the 2 guys I was with, Ortega. And, the Black Star Ninja grabs the arrow out the air, snaps it, and then Joe snaps his bow. You know what I'm saying? So they start fighting or whatever. And then Ortega, he's heading to the helicopter because the 2 dudes that they was going to sell the weapons to, they ain't want no parts and none of that. So they told Ortega, this is a lot going on right now, maybe next time, you know what I'm saying? So he winds up killing both of them and taking the money anyway. So this is when the rest of the army shows up. You know what I mean? You got old boy Larry Poindexter's character. You know what I'm saying? Him and Jackson, boy, they started shooting shit up and everything. Now, it's this funny fight scene where Jackson is fighting this big motherfucker, right? Yo, Jackson punches him in the face, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't bother him at all, right? So it's like, Jackson says something like, oh, shit. So next thing you know, Jackson hits him. I think he hits him in the leg or in the nuts or something like that. And then he beats his ass and knocks him out. So Joe is still fighting the Black Star Ninja at this point, and Patricia is being held captive still by Ortega. But the Colonel, he's seeing what's going on. Ortega has his daughter, so he's confronting Ortega. And Ortega has a gun pointed at him, right? Mind you, the Colonel has a pistol in his hand himself. So Ortega winds up shooting and killing, her father or whatever. And he jumps into the helicopter telling the pilot to take off or whatever. So when I chat, he was waiting on the Black Star Ninja to finish Joe off, but that doesn't happen. Joe winds up killing him, and then Joe heads to the helicopter, and he's riding it. They're all the way in the air. I don't know. That might have been a stunt double in the ninja outfit that's hanging off the side of the helicopter or whatever when they flying up. So Joe winds up getting inside of the helicopter. He snatches Patricia. And on the ground, Jackson has this rocket launcher or whatever. And he sees that Joe is trying to get Patricia out of the helicopter. So Joe finally gets her, and then they jump down onto the shed or whatever, right? On top of this building, which, you know what I'm saying, wasn't that far of a jump, but yo, from the distance that they jumped, they had to fuck something up. If that was real life, yeah, I mean, something would have been broken or something, you know what I'm saying, from the distance that they jumped. But, you know, anyway, they escaped the helicopter, and Steve James' character, Curtis Jackson, winds up shooting the helicopter with the rocket launcher, blowing everybody up. Even the fucking pilot, bro, who ain't do shit. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? Blew the shit up. And Joe has Patricia in his arms. And Jackson's basically telling him to, you know, basically to throw her to him. Throw her to him. You know what I'm saying? So Joe drops her down to Jackson. And he takes off his mask and he's just staring off in space, right? So that's pretty much the end of the movie. You know what I'm saying? I guess that's how movies like that ended back in the day. I'll say for the next few weeks, we're going to talk about all the American Ninja films, which, in my opinion, American Ninja 2 is the best one. If y'all haven't seen it, look at that one. I'll even watch that one before I watch the first one, if I haven't seen one, because American Ninja 2, it's funny as shit, you know what I'm saying? But it's also good, man. Ain't nothing like a good 80s cheesy martial arts film, yo. But, man, if I got to give this movie a rating, American Ninja, I would give it, I don't know, I'll probably give it a 7 out of 10. You know what I mean? There was some unrealistic stuff that went on, you know what I'm saying? But the acting was pretty good. I can't lie. You know what I'm saying? Michael Dudikoff did his thing. Steve James did his thing. And sadly, Steve James passed away in 93. So rest in peace to him. You know what I'm saying? He was in American Ninja 1, 2, and 3. Now, the weakest one, like I said, was 5. American Ninja 5 was just stupid. You know what I'm saying? But American Ninja 3 was okay. But I think American Ninja 4 was better. And a lot of people think, you know, American Ninja 4 is trash. But I thought it was straight. But we'll get to those movies, you know, soon. But if you made it this far into the video, I know I was trying to cut my video time. I wasn't expecting to go this long. But I really do thank y'all for listening, man. So be back here next week. And this is the last video I will be making in my current location right now, because we will be moving next Saturday. So I'll get with y'all that next Sunday. So be there. Or be square, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that shit was lame. My bad. But I'll get with y'all next time, all right? Peace.